Welcome to Dialing In. I'm your host, Jule Salem, and this is the podcast where we talk about the real work of leadership. Not just the wins, but the moments that force us to grow, recalibrate, and reconnect. Now let's go to the moment your business partner walks into your office and says, "I can't do this anymore." This happens at the same time your business is on the rise, and then suddenly they're out. In this episode, Tiffany Bailey, CEO of Bayside Sod, shares what happened when rapid growth forced a shift in leadership, and the person she trusted most realized he wasn't cut out for the next phase. What followed wasn't a dramatic fallout, it was something tougher. Frustration, loneliness, even a sense of betrayal. Tiffany's reaction was an important one, though. She did the uncomfortable work of turning inward before trying to fix someone else. And what really stayed with me in Tiffany's story is this. Alignment doesn't always mean keeping the same structure. Sometimes it means redefining roles so people can thrive doing what they're best suited for, and ultimately choosing connection over control. Let's dial in. So Tiffany, as I mentioned, I feel like when I talk to different people, they all have their own version of what connection in the workplace feels like and looks like to them. And so before we dive into your specific story, wanted to get your thoughts and feedback on what that looks like for you in your own business.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I can see how a lot of people do look at that differently. For me, when I think of connection in the workplace, I think about two big things. One being connected to the team, like the other humans that we're working with. Mm-hmm. And then two, being connected to the work. I think that that's very important for culture of a company and success of a company. A lot of people are just in their work for a paycheck. And we actually, one of the core values of our company is we care in this house, and that means to be here for more than a paycheck. So I think it's important to just feel connected to your work. And that's kind of pie in the sky. It can be gray, but over time, I've learned some real tangible things that can help make that happen. And it doesn't happen overnight, but in my company, I can see where that's paying off, and it is a differentiator. And so I think having people be connected to each other and connected to the work that they're doing, it's important, and it makes work more meaningful.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that definitely resonates with my own experience. I know for myself, the one thing I'd add to that is being connected to myself as well. I feel like it's so threefold, as you mentioned, to each other and really the mission of what we're serving, right? Through our individual businesses and then ourselves as well. So no, completely resonate with what you shared. So thanks. I think that helps kind of set our conversation as it applies to your specific experience. So I know when we had chatted before, you had shared with me a moment of disconnection that you've experienced in your business. And it really stuck out to me because, it wasn't necessarily just an employee that you had on your team, but your business partner, right? The person that you're embarking on this path with. So I'll let you take it from there. So what led up to that and where did that go?
Yeah. First, I'll give you just a little bit of color, a little bit of background. So this is a family business that I work in, and I had taken it over. I had bought it from my dad, and I worked really hard to figure out that I really love the business side of things, and I wanted to grow the company. And I realized that in order to do that, you need some people to start helping you. You can't do it all. I was at that phase for a while where it's 10 employees and you can keep a pulse on everything. But then I knew I wanted to grow. And an area in which I was lacking was sales. I myself am not super strong when it comes to the skill set of sales. I like to be more of the back end and strategic, not necessarily customer facing all of the time. Well, I knew someone who could come in the business and help. And really we just needed a salesperson at that time. So that's when my partner came to work for the company. And we had an agreement that after 2 years, if everything was working really well, he would have an opportunity to buy into the company. And so those 2 years flew by. We had a lot of growth. He helped our company grow. And so we shook hands and did all the lawyer stuff and became business partners. And that worked great for quite a long time. And we continued to grow and grow. And then probably about 2 or 3 years after that, we started to need more of a sales team versus just him being the salesperson. So his role and his responsibilities started to shift. And again, with more growth, we needed more of a sales manager than a sales rep, salesperson. And as most people in business know, those are really different skill sets. And while he was thriving in the salesperson role and the customer facing part, he was really struggling when it came to the management side of things, struggled to hold people accountable, struggled with data, struggled to sit behind a desk, which you need to do because now the organization is running still on relationships, but a lot more on data. And so he started to really struggle there. I was getting frustrated. He was getting frustrated and stressed. And one day he came to me and just said, I can't do it anymore. It's affecting my relationships at home. It's affecting my health, my well-being. And I still want to be involved in this company. I love you. I love what we're doing, but I cannot any longer be essentially in a leadership role in this company. It's just, it's killing me. And that felt like a big kind of punch in the face at the time.
Because real quick, not to interrupt you, but had this been something that you felt was coming on? Or what were the thoughts leading up to it in your head? Like, oh, he'll figure this out, or...
Great question. Hindsight, yeah. Looking back, I could see it, but I think I just didn't want to face it because it meant so many things that were unknown to me. But yeah, looking back, the signs were all there. I remember even doing some of this, like, we bring a lot of personality survey assessment stuff into my organization as a tool, not an end all be all, but it can help you kind of identify how people are wired.
As a guide.
Yeah, as a guide. And we did 2 different tools, and both of them were just screaming like, this is a relationship guy, someone who's very focused on people, not process. And the data was just screaming like he's naturally wired as more of a sales guy, not someone to kind of sit and crunch numbers and be strategic and all of that.
Sure.
But again, if I'm honest, as an owner of a business, we are in the spot where sometimes you are that only person to do something and you have to just power through it and get through it. Oftentimes until you can grow to the point of being able to hire a weakness, without thinking it, I probably had some of the thought, well, too bad, grind it out, figure it out.
I'm doing it, so why can't you?
I'm doing it, why can't you? Exactly. And so, yeah, of course, looking back, the signs were there. But, we actually were having some conversations too. But again, until you're ready to face something, it's unfortunate. And I've grown in that area of my leadership a lot. But you have to really listen, and not just for the things that you want to hear, but what someone's really saying and what really is going on. But we had some light conversations around, this is an area where I'm struggling. But he genuinely wanted to try to work through it. So we had that big conversation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah. So I was going to ask, he comes to you, and what I'm hearing is really kind of reached this breaking point of like, I've tried to figure it out. I've tried to mold into this and it's not gelling. So when he comes to you with this light bulb realization, what was your reaction to that?
My reaction was I needed to get up and walk out of the room for probably 10 minutes because it was, you get in hard moments as a leader, and you can kind of learn to know when you need to hit a break and take a time out. And learning that over time, if I don't do that, I may say something I don't mean. I may come from a place that's not truly myself and just more of a protection mechanism. And I didn't want to do that because, I mean, my partner and I have had a pretty strong relationship, someone I care about a lot. And so I needed a pause. And so
to process.
Oh, yeah, to process, to take breaths, to try to recenter in a place where I could speak from not being angry. But to be candid, I was pissed off.
Okay.
I just was. That can be kind of my go-to because it's easier than being hurt.
Right.
And underneath the pissed offness, if that's the word, I was hurt. Sure. And I felt let down, and I felt like he just was backing out and not willing to go through the hard stuff like I was. And that's just how I felt. That is not how I feel now. Mm-hmm. That was my
your immediate reaction of taking it in.
Yep. Taking it in.
Yeah. Because I would imagine, even from things I've gone through, probably some of that, and I don't know if this was true for you as well, but the feeling of, well, I guess I can only count on myself at the end of the day, and this person's not going to be in it with me. Where do I go from here? Right? Like this changes the whole plan that I had built up in my mind of how we were going to do this together and drive forward. Now, did you really take 10 minutes? Because I know if it was me, I'd have to be like, we'll regroup on this tomorrow.
I did take 10 minutes. It was maybe 5 or 10, but then we talked after that, but it wasn't much. I absolutely needed I don't know what to do for me. Yeah. Time. And that was a long time. Like that was really a couple weeks went by before we even talked about it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, that brings me to a question, because I'm sure others that have gone through their own experience had that messy, rather muddled in between, right? Yeah. Of the moment of disconnection to where we start on the path to try to bring resolution and realignment. Yep. So what were you doing in that kind of messy in between phase?
Yeah, that messy in between phase, I think it's important to talk about, because oftentimes what happens is it can be so uncomfortable that I think people try to pretend nothing happened,
everything's fine.
Spouses, everything's fine. Spouses argue, it's just easier to not talk about it and move on. Mm-hmm. But I always knew that wasn't going to be the case with us. We just been through so much together that there was no not addressing it. So, hey, the reality was we had a business to run, mm-hmm. and we both knew that. And he didn't come to me saying, I'm out. It just was, I need this to change. I'm willing to stick with it a little bit longer, but ultimately I can't have this level of responsibility
for the long term.
Luckily for us, most people would have not known that something was going on. And I appreciate that about him. And I know he appreciates that about me. We kept it professional, kept everything rolling in the day-to-day, but it wasn't fun for either of us to have that lingering and knowing that a bigger conversation, bigger decisions were coming, and it wasn't quite worked out. So that's what the middle was like for us.
Yeah, I'm sure that is true for a lot of people. And like I said, I myself can relate to, nope, we're just going to carry on. Business is normal. Act like everything's fine.
A lot easier in the moment that way.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of us are guilty of that. So you face kind of the hard reality of, okay, the picture isn't going to be like I thought it was. And now we need to face the hard conversation. So walk us through that. Did you feel like you had gotten yourself to a headspace of, okay, we're going to come together, and talk us through what that looked like for you, and maybe even any strategies that you went into that discussion with?
Yeah, for me, it happened kind of pieces at a time. I never felt fully ready to talk about everything without completely removing my emotions. I think that's reality. But I felt like I had created a little bit of clarity, and then I would move into talking about some things, and then we'd have to recircle back. And I mean, this took several conversations. I mean, maybe over probably 3-4 months to where it came to a full resolution and a sense of clarity. And then for me, I still had a couple months of getting to, this all happened about a year ago. And it took me, if I'm honest, a good 6 months to really feel connected back to each other, connected back to myself, kind of back to being grounded, so to speak. It took a while. It was quite a shakeup for me and him as well. So it happened over time. To answer your question, I just would get a little bit of clarity, circle back, and always try to, like, I can viscerally feel when I'm walling up and when I'm kind of like putting on my armor. I feel like just my blood pressure rise. I get red in the face. And I know that I can't go much beyond that point. And so that's when I kind of slow myself down, and I got to figure some stuff out. And otherwise I'm going to be acting from that pissed offness again.
So when you embarked on these mini dialogues with him, would you reach those moments and know for yourself, okay, this is where I need to take a pause and we'll come back and revisit again?
Yes.
Were there things that you were doing along the way with the goal of trying to reestablish connection with this person through these dialogues?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I went through it. It was very short, but I was like, screw that. He's not going to try. I'm not going to try. But then that just felt very off. It's never helpful to me. It never ends well when I stay in anger, and it just doesn't go to a good place. And so I know that I want to get away from that. And for me, there was a lot of self-reflection. I did a lot of journaling. I have a therapist that I see pretty regularly. So lots of talking through that and trying to see how it may be connected into some other situations that I've been in. What else is that stirring up? All of that unwinding. And so that was kind of my process for it. It wasn't this ABC 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of quiet time, a lot of reflection, journaling, talking through with a therapist. I go on long runs and no music, with the intent of just kind of processing through things further. So yeah, I probably took some longer runs during that time. And those are the kind of things that kind of help me really connect back with myself. And if I'm not, it's like that third thing you talked about. If I'm not connected with myself, I'm not going to be very good at connecting with others. I had to understand what's important to me, connect back to what I value. And then when I felt better, I was ready to work on kind of the relationship and how we move forward, both as people that care about each other and people that are running a business. There's a lot of other people reliant on the decisions we make and how well we get along with each other.
Definitely. Yeah. It's key to what we're trying to accomplish, I feel like, often in business. Well, you touched on, which I appreciate you sharing, all the things that you were doing for yourself to get through this, which I give you kudos, because I think from my talking to other leaders, not all of them will turn inward, right? And I know for myself, that's where I gain the most clarity. And similar to what you just described, when I'm taking that time for solitude and processing my thoughts, and even in your case, having somebody as a sounding board to be able to like verbalize the words and thoughts, I know is something that definitely helps me. But I think, and maybe, going back to like your initial reaction of this all happening, I think it's so easy, and most point the finger elsewhere, right? Oh, it's the other person. So I compliment you for taking the time to look inward, and because not everyone does that.
Yeah, it's hard. And doing that, you often see like you have to own your side of the street and see your own flaws. And how fun is that? That's terrible.
What? I'm not perfect, right?
Wait a minute.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you had to hone in on having gone through this experience, and if someone else is going through something similar, experiencing that moment of disconnection with a key member of their team, particularly in your case, like a business partner and key leader that you've been reliant on, what advice would you give, if they're not sure where to start on rebuilding that relationship and getting back to realignment with that person and their business?
It's important, because if you have a company, like, you're essentially in the people business, and relationships are just a critical part. I used to get so frustrated that people weren't thinking like me.
Mm.
And I more did the pointing the finger out, and I was like, well, what is wrong with them? And that was just an easier way to go. Not much productive comes from that. And what I've learned is that, man, people are so different and they all have kind of their values, which is great. It brings different things to the table and you can put those things together and do great things together. But yeah, what I've learned is that people don't think like me. There is value in that. It's not a downside. It's just uncomfortable sometimes. It's just been important for me to find those things that you both truly value and they're not surface level. They're deeper than that. It's like connection, significance. A lot of us want that. A lot of us need that. What I've learned is everybody kind of has their own motivations. They're going to be different than yours. If you can find where they're aligned, great. But if they're misaligned, that's okay. My business is going to be okay. I can pivot. I can make decisions. But when I try to shove a square peg in a round hole, it's not good for anybody. And I've done a lot of that in my career, and it's just so uncomfortable. Things tend to drag out for too long. I've learned to just more accept for people who they are. They can transform and change a little bit, but you can't ultimately change what somebody wants, what they need to be fulfilled. And sometimes you have to make moves accordingly.
Sure. Yeah. And I hear some of what you're describing is being able to accept one another for not just the strengths that we bring to the table, but our weaknesses and different approaches too. I know my hope in my business is that we can still all align on similar values. We may just approach how we get there differently sometimes. And I've certainly had those moments like you described where I'm like, well, why can't you just see it this way? Like
For sure.
you're going to get there faster, right? If you do it this way.
Yeah, just listen to me.
Right. But I know I've found from my experience is that sometimes they get whatever it is, call it satisfaction or fulfillment in being able to have the autonomy to approach it their own way, but still get the same result, right? Which at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, well, if we're getting the same result, then why should I maybe care so much how you got there?
Yeah, for sure. But giving someone that space, it can be a challenge for me, but in the end, if they can have that autonomy, like it's a win-win for everybody as long as you can get that result that you need.
Sure, sure. So how would you describe, so when you feel like, and I'll use the word kind of in the flow, right? When you feel like things are gelling amongst your team and maybe you're not yourself pushing back on the resistance or that upward battle of trying to put the square peg in the round hole. How does that feel differently to you, whether it's business operationally and working together as a team when things are more cohesive? Is it something that you can visibly notice and feel?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely times where you feel like things are flowing. For me, that means there's no elephant in the room, or like sometimes in a team, there's like that thing that we all should talk about, but no one wants to.
Yes.
So you kind of pretend it's not there. And like, I never feel in that flow if that's a situation. That's always going to get in the way of that cohesiveness and alignment. So whatever that thing is, getting it on the table and talking through it, I know that that's an element of it. I also know that for me, I've experienced where time is important. So I'm not one to need a lot of quality time with the people I'm in relationships with. I need some.
Mm-hmm.
I need high quality, but I don't need a lot of quantity.
Sure.
Not every team member is like that, but I know when things are going well and we are in that flow, people are getting their needs met, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like kind of a gel area where there's a give and get. You're not over giving to where you feel like you're just not getting too much. But then there's the opposite of that, which is kind of the poop and swoop, the hey, just check in. There's a middle ground there where everybody kind of is getting their needs met.
Sure, sure. And I think that's something I see in my own team. And sometimes it is that balance of, oh, I know Jane, like she really needs more of my time, but I may not always have that amount of time to give.
Yep.
So trying to find that happy middle ground. You mentioned something that I want to touch on. You were describing that you don't feel alignment and flow when there's those unspoken things. And so this is something that has been top of mind for me recently because I'm one of those, like, I want everything to be connected and everybody's getting along and we're happy in what we're doing together. And so sometimes I think, and I actually had to describe this with my team recently, that hey, like, is it okay? Are you all comfortable with me bringing these things up? And so my question for you is, do you feel like you're the one that if you're feeling it, you'll raise it? Or are other people on your team open to kind of raising the flag and saying, hey, this is something I think we should talk about?
I have a mix, like my current leadership team now. Obviously, everyone's going to be a little bit different there. I have some more reserved and some more outspoken. I do try to lead by example and talk about the hard stuff. And my hope is that gives other people permission to do so. I think I do tend to be the one to put more of that stuff on the table. But I believe I'm pretty aware of the consequences of not doing so. And it's a short-term comfort exchanged for long-term pain. And I don't want that. And I do try to get those things on the table, but we're not perfect at it by any means. We try to even facilitate some of that. So I try to create environments like in quarterly planning sessions or our annual planning sessions. We have dedicated time for like teamwork where you're supposed to give honest feedback. We do quarterly conversations with each other. And so that kind of creates a space where it's like, hey, in the day-to-day or weekly meetings, it's not always like feels like the right time. But I think it's important to create that space where it's on the calendar. People are supposed to prepare. And otherwise, I find like if you don't have that, it's likely not going to happen because it's so easy to get caught up in the urgent and not talk about that important.
Yes.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah. And it brought to mind when you mentioned like quarterly conversations. I think you follow EOS.
We do. Yeah.
Which we do as well, probably a little bit more loosely these days. But I remember going to our facilitator's office and it said on the wall, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And sometimes I feel like that sounds great, but how do we actually do that? So when you were describing that you've often been the one to raise your hand and bring up the hard topics to talk through and discuss with your team and creating the space for them to do the same, have you found that in time, kind of the more you do that, are you observing members of your team do get more comfortable with that? Or have you done anything to try to foster people being comfortable with those open and honest dialogues?
So something I noticed that when somebody's new, my experience has always been that they're kind of sitting back and feeling the team out. But I have experienced where once they see that the environment is okay, nobody's chopping their head off. I have seen where they do become more willing. Some team members take more time than others. Like human beings are wired differently, and some are just more reserved, more skeptical by nature. And can't force that. My impatience has a hard time with that because I'm like, let's get on the table so we can work through it and move on and da-da-da-da-da. But not everyone is ready for that. So to answer your question, yes, I do think over time, if you continue to do it, it does get easier. I know just speaking from my experience, I used to wait and agonize for a long time if it was something light, days and days, and if it was something bigger, months and months. I've been able to shorten the amount of time, but I'm still uncomfortable. Like that hasn't, for me, gotten any better. Like it's still there. I just don't sit with it as long.
More of a, I know this is there, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid and get through it.
Yeah, I had a friend who I just kind of admire the way she is just forthcoming, outspoken. And I'm like, man, I would love to borrow a piece of that. And I asked her one time, I'm like, do you agonize before hard conversations? Because outwardly it doesn't look like that. It just looks like you're just willing to get after it. And she's like, no, I absolutely agonize. I have a sleepless night or two or whatever. But she told me I try to focus on that feeling you have after you've talked about the thing And I do experience this. It's like a relief. It's like a build, 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 build. And then you get it on the table. And even if it doesn't go really well, it's just a relief that it's on the table. And I've taken that with me the past year or so. And so I just try to focus on that potential is there. And it's helped me speed up the process a little bit.
That's awesome. I know I've found and I feel like I'm often repeating in my head that it's all about taking the action, right? Like I can read all the books, I can think all the things ad nauseum, but the only way we're going to like embark on getting to resolution is just taking action.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's true. It's true. So easy to say, hard to do,
Absolutely.
but valid.
So as we kind of start wrapping up, I wanted to circle back with your business partner. It sounds like it was certainly a journey in getting back to realignment with that person. And as you described, and the words I'll put to it are kind of those micro moments, right? It's not all necessarily going to get solved in one discussion, but those micro steps and the continued dialogue and discussion. So how do things look today? Do you feel like, okay, it's been some time, we've had these discussions. Do you feel like you have been able to get back to realignment?
I do. Overall, we're in a very great place. I do feel aligned. I'd be lying if I said it's 100% clear and there's nothing left unsaid. The big things have all been said, but we both continue to prioritize the relationship. And so just, again, give that space so that things are coming up. We, just because of how kind of the role shifts, so he did move into just a sales rep role versus being on the leadership team. So he moved off the leadership team. Has no direct reports and he's just a sales guy, a very good one at that. So he's
doing what he does best.
So something that came with that is we spend less time together day-to-day business wise. So what we've done is we've created a cadence of meeting. We have a slot on the calendar every 3 weeks where we're having a couple hours with each other, breakfast, lunch. So we've created that. And really how I got resolved with it is just understanding like the value that we both place on the relationship. And I had to overcome looking at only like the skill sets in the business, but really understanding like the value that he brings as a partner with support. He may not be able to be there in the exact skill set that I thought and wanted and thought we needed for the business, but he is there and we are there for each other when it comes to support. He's the one person that I've got, luckily, a few people in my life, but on one hand that you can really go to with pretty much anything. And we try to be that person for each other. And he is that. And even though he didn't want to be a sales manager, that part never changed, right? The support for one another. And so I had to get to the point realizing that and valuing that, and things, they don't look like I thought they would. Not at all. So many things in my life and business don't look like I thought they would. And it's okay. We're always okay.
No, definitely. And sometimes the different picture ends up being a better fitted picture. I know for myself than what I had originally imagined.
For me too. Yeah. I think I shared with you that, I'm in a family business and my leadership team at one point was all family years ago. And I kind of had this hoorah, like we're going to grow the business together and kumbaya. And I have no family members on my leadership team now. And that's
a big change. Yeah.
It's huge. It's been lots of changes, but luckily we've been able to grow the business. Not all the family members work in the business. Some do, some don't, but we all get along. We all go to Thanksgiving and everybody's good together. And sure, we're human beings in a relationship and it's not always perfect, but the business is thriving. We have an amazing culture. We try really hard and do well with not playing favorites on family members. Like when we're at work, we're there to work. Making some of those tough decisions, I believe, has really benefited me, benefited the company. It looks so much different than I ever thought it would, but we're thriving and we have a thriving culture. And I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. Some of it has come from those decisions. And yeah, I couldn't have imagined being where I'm at. And the path looks so different than I ever would have thought. It's been a beautiful journey.
That's awesome. And I think you kind of just brought it full circle for us, because my hope and mission behind the podcast is how connection in the workplace, which you so beautifully described in sharing your experience, really is what I have found to be the greatest performance driver, right? Like when we're feeling aligned, when we're gelling, when we're approaching, when raising those difficult conversations with the intent of being more connected. I feel like that's what really helps in driving the business forward ultimately.
I totally agree, because mechanics of the business, like, they're challenging, but they're simple. It's, measure things, have strategy, meet, have a cadence. But like, there's these intangibles, and I think connection is one of them.
Mhm.
It's a difference maker.
Absolutely. Well, Tiffany, I so appreciate you coming on and having this discussion. If anyone is interested in connecting with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, and I'm not the best at personal brand stuff. I am the CEO of my company, Bayside Sod, and probably the best place is just look at LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn page there, both personal and one at business as well.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure that we connect it. And Tiffany, thank you again. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for bringing up such a topic that's important. I think that it's not discussed enough. And it was great to be a part of what you're doing and what you're building with this show.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Dialing In. I hope this conversation brought you something meaningful, whether it's a new way to lead through complexity, a reminder of the power of connection, or simply the comfort of knowing you're not navigating leadership alone. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you'd share it with a colleague, a leader in your circle, or someone who could benefit from the insights we explored. The more leaders we bring into this dialogue, the more positive change we can create. And if you have a story of disconnection, reconnection, or breakthrough that you think would help others, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out, tell me a bit about your journey, and let's explore whether it could be a fit for a future episode. This episode of Dialing In was produced by Michael Osborne of 14th Street Studios, edited by Talia Anili, and mixed by Morgan Honecker. Until next time, keep dialing in one moment of connection at a time.